What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40k. Throughout the history of 40k, we have some awesome, amazing fights that the primarchs take in, be it the big one, which is Horus versus the Emperor, or maybe even something newer, such as Leman versus Mortarion. These fights are always epic, and they never leave us disappointed. One such fight was a fight that never should have happened, and a fight that started off as just like a brawl and ended up becoming a little bit more serious, and that is none other than the wolf versus the lion, Leman Russ versus Lionel Johnson, that took place in the novel The Great Wolf. This happened because the two legions were working side by side to take down an empire, and the Wolf King was about to take out the leader of this empire, but Lionel Johnson came in and took his kill. This led to the two primarchs coming into blows and giving us a silly yet epic battle between the two. So of course we have the newest lore for Lionel Johnson when he comes back into the fray and fights none other than that of Demon Prince Angron, and it is a battle to be said across the ages. Tanks were being thrown, it spanned a bunch of different locations, and it was just pretty badass. So let's see what happens between the lion and the wolf in this 40k reading. So without further ado, let's dive right in. They faced one another, circling warily. Russ's anger was palpable, spilling out of him like heat from a fire, his breath coming in throaty hisses. The lion was more colder, more remote, but now equally furious, his dignity dented in front of his warriors. This was not the formal dueling he excelled at. This was a brawl, kicked off by a barbarian, a hothead, no better than the dogs he kept. "You do not have to play to this reputation, brother," the lion said. "You can drop the pretense anytime you choose." "My warriors fight on below," spat Russ. "If you had aided them, I would have called you friend for it." "Then go to them yourself," said the lion. "Do not blame me for doing what you would not." Russ swept back into contact, this time swinging his chainsword across at his brother. The lion met the strike two-handed, driving the blow back with his longsword in a blaze of sparks. For a moment, they tried their strength, pressing the two blades hard, the metal screaming against metal. Kraken Maw's churning teeth ground against the immaculate edge of the lion's sword, neither finding the advantage. At the sight of true fighting breaking out, Blackblood's warriors roared encouragement, slamming their blades and generating a wall of noise in support of their liege. The Dark Angels initially made no move, but finally responded, seeing what was unfurling before them. Led by Inarden, soon they were calling out in turn, vying with the wolves to shout louder, cheering for their liege as if on a tourney field of old Caliban. "You have ever heard yourself above the rest?" spat Russ, driving more power into his locked arms. "Where does it come from? Were you damaged as a child?" The lion pushed back, giving no ground. "I never saw the point of you, that is true. No one could explain it to me either." Then he broke away, falling back. Russ went after him, and they traded heavy swings, their blades clanging together with bone-breaking force. Huge blows landed, propelled with utter commitment, fast and accurately fueled by the mutual antipathy that had always been there gestating beneath the veneer of the Great Crusade, now erupting into open combat. "No, our purpose is evident," said Russ, pressing furiously, driving his brother beyond the throne and back along the hall behind. "You see it before you now, and you long to be its equal. All I see is delusion. So much energy, so poorly directed." Russ was the stronger of the two by a fraction, powering Kraken Maw with the greater heft and momentum, but the lion had the superior dexterity, angling his parries and thrusts to catch Russ off balance. They hacked and drew at one another, circling, feinting, slicing through the cloak and pelt, smashing the trophies from their armor. The impact of every strike echoed out throughout the throne room, fast and hard, gaining in speed and commitment. The cries of encouragement reached a crescendo, resounding down above the long throne room, swelling into every alcove. All legionaries present were seasoned fighters, used to the continual tests of the practice cage and dueling pit, and yet none had ever witnessed their masters stretched to the fullest. Russ and the Lion had been created by the Emperor, schooled in every stratagem known to the Imperium, made as strong and as fast as the guileful physics and biology would allow. When they moved to strike, it was godlike, blurred by speed, locked into perfection, weighted to cause apocalyptic levels of damage. And finally, they broke apart, both breathing heavily, both carrying deep rents on their armor. Russ started to laugh, though it was dark. "Too much for you yet, my noble lord," he taunted. "You can count the worlds you conquer, but you never fought like this." "No, it was a game to me." "Nor I." The Lion snorted. "You treat all as a game. That is why they sent for me. Malcador cannot trust you. No one can trust you. Your legion is a rabble that would brawl amongst themselves if you were not there to smack their heads together." "If only they were more like yours," said Russ mockingly. "Yes," replied the Lion. "Yes. Is that so hard to imagine?" Russ loosened his arms, letting Kraken Maw swing lazily before him. "I know why you do this. I know why you conquer, world after world, driving your sons after every campaign Malcador finds. But our father won't do it. He won't choose a favorite, and if he did, it wouldn't be you. It would be Sanguinius, or Rogel, or Horus. So you're wasting yourself, trying to be noticed. It doesn't work like that." The Lion let slip of a scornful laugh. "Not all of us are so without friends in the palace. And you have no idea who our father favors, Leman." "Maybe so," said Russ, advancing again, his chainsword revving. "But he's not here now, is he? Just you and me, and the Kraken's teeth." "An ugly blade," said the Lion, glancing at it warily, much like its master. Russ piled in again, sweeping the chain blade low and aiming his adversary's legs, but the Lion's sword slammed down to block, propelled two-handed and fast. Russ heaved upwards, aiming to overbalance the Lion, as they both staggered further down the hall, pursued by their cheering entourages. Then the Lion struck, hauling his blade around crossways, only to drive it up at the last minute. Russ's counterstrike came in too high, and Krakenmaw was wrenched, spitting from his grasp. He reached out to pull it back, but the Lion had already sent it clattering away, and it tumbled end over end, forcing the paladins to leap clear. Perhaps the Lion thought that this might have been an end to it, for he never followed up with the strike that would have surely driven deep into Russ's exposed chest. But the Wolf King had other ideas. Snarling with rage, Russ barged headlong onto his brother, turning his entire body into a weapon, and smashing the Lion back. The two of them careened into the nearest pillar, a column of pure stone a meter thick. The Lion thudded into it, sending cracks rushing out. Russ punched him again and again, his fists furious with speed blurred, breaking his brother's fine helm and denting the angel's wings at his temples. The Lion, reeling, swung his sword clumsily, but the blow was weak and did not bite. Russ grabbed him by the shoulders and with a cry of rage and exertion, threw him across the hall. The Lion hit the ground hard, toppling onto his back and dragging along the stone flags. Russ turned to pursue him, still weaponless. Krakenmaw had been thrown a long way, and as he made to retrieve it, Alajos moved to bar his way. For a moment the Primarch hesitated, stunned by the defiance, and then he gave up on his chainsword and ripped an axe from the Dark Angel's grasp, before sending Alajos sprawling back with a blow that might have easily ripped the chapter master's head off. "This'll do," he snarled, racing back to his recovering brother. As the Lion leapt back up, the two of them collided again, axe versus sword, now two weapons of the First Legion set against one another. The blows came in quicker, more frenzied, tearing away at the ravaged armor and biting into the flesh of the Primarchs for the first time. Blood as thick as engine oil flecked across the stone flags, marking their progress along the full length of the hall and out towards the antechambers beyond. The watching legionaries could only follow, captivated by the violence of it all. They fought, and they fought with conviction of the brothers wronged and of demigods roused to anger. "There is no place for you, Leman," cried the lion. "You will always be shunned, and you made this fate yourself. When this crusade is over, you will have nothing but your homeworld, nothing but your empty mountains to brawl in. Is that what you wanted?" "I asked for nothing," said Russ. "Nothing but what I am. We were all made for a reason, and we are at least known to what ours is." "Ha! Some purposes were flawed, that you know. Legions can be sanctioned, their lords held to account. Perhaps yours will be one of those. Do you think so, brother? If the day ever comes, I will not be astonished at it." "Speak not of things you do not understand, boy," growled Russ. "Gods, you are as ignorant as you are arrogant." The two primarchs bludgeoned their way through a set of heavy doors, fighting all the while, leaving their pursuing warriors behind, barely conscious of their surroundings. Beyond the doorway was an open air, an observation platform built right at the pinnacle of the fortress for surveying. As they burst into the open room, the skies above greeted them with a low grind of thunder. Tortured by heavy munitions loosened across the landscape below, the very air had become electric, thick with rain and overborne by flame. They pulled apart again, panting heavily now. "I fear for you, my brother," spat Russ. "I see a time when your conquests are over, and then you will have to look at one another and see what you have become. I can see behind your mask, even if none on Terra can. We carry our cause in the daylight, free for all to see. Your poison is hidden, but it will come to light sooner or later." "We do not all carry curses," said the lion. "We were all made the same way," said Russ. "How could we not?" Far below them, the wide plains were streaked with lanes of fire, pocketed by smears of soot-black smoke, testament to the volume of punishment melted out by these two legions. The citadels to the west were crumbling, reduced by the Dark Angels. The industrial sprawl to the north was rocketed by an endless chain reaction of detonations, immolating whole plateaus of manufactoria in a raging inferno of neon fulguration. Below them, swooping down over the precipices of the platform, the Crimson Fortress itself was being purged with fire and fury, the wolves visiting dire retribution for their earlier trials. The wind shrieked all around them, snagged by tendrils of flame. Lightning lanced down along the southern horizon, ushering in the deluge that nature seemed to summon to cool the furnace ignited across Doolin. "We are the first of the Imperium," snarled the lion, whirling into action once again, powering across the platform's width and slamming his blade into the axe's block. "We have nothing to hide." And so they fought again, on and on, neither relenting, neither holding back. The lion's skin ran with mingled sweat and blood under his armor, his arms growing heavier with every sweep of his blade. But Russ was suffering too, limping from a deep cut to his right leg, the engine of his fury gutting, even as his superhuman body felt the pain of cumulative damage. The blows became wider, more vicious, flying in with abandon. Their energy reserves bled away, but hyperadrenaline kicked in, flooding their secondary hearts, staining every muscle and wrenching just a little more power, a little more effort. Russ swung a heavy punch, missing the lion's helm by a finger, breath and driving deep into the wall beyond. The masonry shattered, the block imploding under the pile driver impact. The lion went to seize his enemy, to swing him around into the wall. The two of them locked close now, crashed into the rockcrete, sending whole sections sliding over the edge. Thunder cracked again overhead, and rain came at last. The two primarchs battled on, demolishing more of the parafleet and hurling debris out over the drop. Heedless of the danger, they were now utterly consumed, fighting like creatures possessed, driven no longer by any half-remembered grievances, but by the purity of the need to prevail, the warrior instinct in its most complete and prideful form. They drove at one another blindly, grappling on the edge, their weapons locked together. The lion tried to pull back, tried to force his opponent down into the floor. He gripped with the blanket wolf pelt, seizing it and ripping it clear from his brother's back. The rune totems scattered, cut from their twine, and bounced over the stonework. Russ shrugged off the attempted hold, crouched down, spread his arms, and pushed forward, catching the lion in the midriff and propelling them both out across the broken lip. The two teetered on the edge for a heartbeat, still lashing out at one another. Sword and axe dashed again, steel grinding against steel. The lion fighting to hold position, Russ fighting to break it. And with a final shove of locked arms, their combined center of gravity tipped over, and their footing gave out in a shower of broken stone. They plummeted, hurling down the flanks of the fortress as the rain laced with them. The outer walls of the tyrant's redoubtable sloped fractionally outwards as they dropped, and the primarchs slammed into it, 50 meters down, gouging a long wound in the outer plating and driving deeper in. The lion's sword was lost, then the axe, both thrown clear by the impact and sent sailing out into the abyss. With a sickening smack, both primarchs landed on a protruding balcony set further down. The stonework exploded as their combined weight rammed into it, and they plowed on through, only coming to a stop when they hit another rampart level below. Surrounded by tumbling rubble, each primarch got shakily back to their feet, weaponless but still compelled by blind fury. They charged out at one another, their gauntlets clenched, punching out in a fury of fresh blows. The rain sleeted down around them, sending blood-thickened rivets coursing over their dented battle plates. They were still high up, having landed on one of the topmost paraplates of the east-facing wall. Far below, the lower levels spread out, smoldering and broken, resounding to the muffled booms of mortar fire and the rumble of motor armor. Russ swung the blow wild with exhaustion, catching the lion on the temple and driving the curve of his helm in. The lion staggered, pulling back to evade the follow-up, before launching a bludgeoning strike of his own. They closed in, again, tearing at one another, slipping in the rain and the filth that swirled around them. Every impact was still incredible, propelled by the servos in their armor and enhanced by muscles and anger. Russ finally gained purchase and struck out, sending a crack smacking down the length of this lion's already damaged helm. That seemed to trigger some fresh surge of rage, and he hurled Russ aside, flinging him across the length of the parafleet. Russ snarled and powered back close, swatting away the lion's punch and reaching out to smash his fist into the fissure he had opened. He only missed by a fist's width, and overbalanced, crashing to the floor, rolling over to his back. As he did so, the sky above them erupted into a thunderous light, the clouds bursting from within as lightning leapt down from the heavens. For a moment, all Russ saw was the opportunity. The last impact had nearly taken his brother's helm clean off. He could leap to his feet, shove him back, and press the advantage. Every part of his body was hot with agony. Bones had been fractured, many of them. His armor was mined, his blade lost. The lion looked no better. His cloak hung about him in a greasy tatter, and his shoulders were slumped. Russ heard the laughter begin as if from far away, and it took a while to realize it was he himself that was making it. His chest started to shake, and the myth rose up in his gorge, burgeoning fast as the absurdity of the situation became truly apparent. They had commenced a duel as warrior kings, superb and terrible, but it was ending as a gutter of brawlers, their finery smashed and their fury exhausted. "Why do you laugh?" slurred the lion, staggering towards him, his fist still balled, wincing through his laughter as the pain speared across his ribs. "Hell's teeth, brother," he spat, blood speckling his vox grill. "What are we doing here?" The lion swayed, standing over him, drowned in the heavy rain, lightning cracking down. "You yield?" asked the lion. Do I what?" "Do you yield?" By then it was impossible to stop. The mirth became a torrent, as mighty as the cascades that now poured down from the fortress's flanks. He tried to speak, to blurt out something that would end the whole ludicrous episode, but nothing came. The lion thought that this was still some kind of honor duel. They had pummeled one another to the edge of consciousness, demolished half of the tyrant's palace in their fury, and still the Lord of Angels was demanding satisfaction. This was madness. Russ roared his laughter out, throwing his head back against the streaming walls. He forgot it all. The hunt, the crusade, the sickness in his legion's soul, the politics of the fraternity of primarchs, the destiny of the species. And it rocked in uncontrollable glee. He never saw the blow that finally ended it all. He never tensed for it, never put up a warding arm, and never even watched for the lion limping across to him, pulling his bloodied fist back and launching the punch that would crack open his skull and knock him as cold as the tombs of Caliban. And there you have it, guys. This was the epic battle, or brawl should I say, between two primarchs that ended up as the win for none other than the Lion, Lionel Johnson. But was it really? He did kind of sucker punch him at the end, and the two primarchs were just kind of going back and forth, neither one winning, both taking blows that would kill any other combatant. And this just kind of shows you, when it's two primarchs fighting against one another, like, the battles are legendary. You know, going back and forth, fighting across a whole freaking castle, and then you could see bones were broken, blood was pouring from both of them. They took shots to the head, skulls were cracked, ribs were broken, legs, muscles sliced off. Well, not sliced off, but like torn asunder. Like, this was kind of like child's play to them. And we could kind of see and infer from this excerpt just how much of an expert combatant the Lion is. He's able to parry, he's able to go blow to blow to the Emperor's executioner. The wolves and Leman Russ were sent out to take out none other than the Lost Legions, either the 2nd or the 11th, and they also were sent out to take out none other than the Thousand Sons and Magnus the Red. So clearly we see that Leman Russ is capable of going toe-to-toe with any Primarch and probably coming out on top. The only reason he was taken out here is because he didn't see it coming. He thought the battle was coming to an end, and he was laughing at the absurdity of it all. And in that moment of, I guess, weakness, not weakness, but he put his defenses down, and he never saw the blow coming that basically knocked him unconscious. And yeah, so it was pretty interesting, pretty funny to see how the Legion was just kind of like cheering and watching in the background. It was a very fun but still serious fight. But yeah, with that being said, guys, what do you think would have happened if the two warriors were literally trying to go at each other for the kill? Do you think Leman Russ would be able to come out on top, or is the Lion just a better warrior, a better swordsman, to be able to set aside the blows of an animalistic rage such as Leman Russ? I, for one, think that Russ would put up a huge difficulty for the Lion, but I think the Lion would come out on top, because clearly we see an older, weaker Lion fighting against a stronger, demonically enhanced Angron. And yes, he did struggle. Yes, he almost did die, but he did come out on top. So I think it'd be a battle of the ages, but the Lion would probably be the victor here. But yeah, so that's all I got to say, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you want to see a round 2 come about sometime in the future? And if so, please let me know, who do you think the victor would be? Would it be a wolfen enhanced Leman Russ, or the aged Lion? Yeah, be sure to like us, comment, subscribe, head on over to the Patreon page, or hit us up with a super thanks if you want to give us more reasons to give you guys more 40k videos and support the channel. And as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.